Hey everyone, this is Jackson Martin in the Department of Art and Art History at UNC Asheville with another how-to video for 3D design. In this video we're going to be talking about making utensils. I'm going to form a spoon using the top and bottom layers of cardboard. So in another video I show you how to separate the top and bottom layers using a bone folder. So once you've separated several layers, get a bucket of warm water from the bathroom or ceramics or sculpture, and then put those layers into the water and soak them for a few minutes. In doing so, it's going to make that paper very pliable and almost fabric-like. So that's kind of the texture that you're looking for. So it doesn't take very long, especially with warm water, for the pieces to be ready to form. But what happens when you separate the layers from the cardboard is the residual glue is left over on those pieces, and so when we sandwich these together, let them dry, that glue is going to re-adhere and keep the spoon together in its new compounded form. So let those soak for a few minutes. Having two spoons to use as forms really makes this process perfect. So I may bring in a couple of my metal spoons from home, but if you have some spoons, even plastic spoons work. Not quite as well as metal, but the idea is that we're going to put those layers together, sandwich them between the two spoons, wrap it in rubber bands or tape, or even press something really heavy on top of it, or clamps. You guys are welcome to use the quick clamps that are in the wood shop for this process. When you're ready, you take out the strips of paper out of the water, lay them onto the table, kind of shaking off the excess water as you go. In this case, I'm using 4 layers. That's probably a good amount. You don't want to go with too many layers because it'll be too thick to kind of form that spoon shape. So I've laid the layers on top of the bottom spoon, laid the top spoon on top, and kind of pushed it with my fingers. And I'm going to cut some of the excess material off to make room for the clamps that I'm going to use. If you are going to go the route of using tape or rubber bands, you're going to have to cut that a lot closer to the spoon to make that work. But I kind of work it with my hands at first, kind of pressing it onto the table, squishing it with my hands to get some of the water out, but also to really push those layers together, to push that glue together. You can really just work it with your hands at first, but in the end, you've got to set it and let it dry for a good while, usually about a day. So putting something heavy on it works, but those clamps really work the best, because once you've clamped it, you can set it aside and not have to worry about it getting moved or anything by another student by accident. So in a minute, the clamps are going to appear, and I'm going to clamp. I use 2 clamps, but depending on the complexity of your spoon and how many layers you have, you could really use 3, like 1 in the front, 1 in the back, and 1 in the middle. But I would think 2 is going to be a minimum for this process. So here I've clamped down the front of the spoon, the back of the spoon, and you can even see the water kind of pushing out as I clamp, and really getting a good form and a good adhesion and a good press going. Yeah, and like I said, I could probably even put a clamp right in the center there to help keep those layers together in the long run. With the excess sticking out the side, it's nice because then you have an indication when it might be dry and when to remove the clamps. But when you are able to remove it, this is what it's going to look like. This one's a much wider spoon than what we've used, but you can kind of see where the paper has compressed and folded. And now these are all different student examples, and the difference between these two spoons is that the student traced the spoon on the paper first, then soaked, then compiled them together. And what happens because of that compound bend is the paper gets kind of pulled into the spoons, and it doesn't match the original spoon as well as when you just cut it into general rectangles, press them together, and then after it's all dry, you'll have that edge, that compressed edge, to use as a guide to cut around and perfect your spoon shape. And that other spoon that I'm showing there is an actual piece of cardboard without the layers separated first, but using the same method where you wet it first, put it between two spoons and clamp it.